important, guys. From all craniocerebral nerves, which we studied together before, yeah? 3, or some literature gives 2, will be in midbrain. 2 will be in hemispheres. It is the olfactorius one and opticus one. And all another will be in rhombencephalon. All another will be originated from rhombencephalon for fossa rhomboidea. That's why it has great practical meaning for us. That's why I write the name of first portion of today's homework. It is medulla oblongata. This for next week?
After next week.
No.
After the exam.
Exactly next week.
Yeah, we have examination. It's including
Here, it doesn't matter what do you have in the time of
your examination.
So you see, my examination in the
It's
next lesson.
included.
Huh?
It's included.
Of course. Of course. That's why give me the time to now explain. Even, guys, if I will not explain it for you completely, sorry, it is your job. That's why let's start, okay?
20. 20.
Let's start. That's all right. Medulla oblongata. Now 1 minute attention, my friends. Look everybody here. My friends, don't lose the time, okay?
Dear doctor, just for
Okay, maybe not. Okay. It doesn't open. Okay, it's fixed. 7, good. Okay, it's normal. Medulla oblongata, right place. It is oldest part of our brain, and it's exactly continuation of the spinal cord. Don't write anything. Only what I will say for you. Let's say don't write. What will be important, I will say. My friends, medulla oblongata, it is the part of the brain which is located in foramen occipitalis major and little bit up to it. Medulla oblongata has 2 surfaces. It is anterior surface, posterior surface, 3, and lateral surface. And it has several important centers, which we will describe together. Right, please. Anterior surface of medulla oblongata. In another case, we call it ventral surface. Anterior or ventral surface. Now look on the picture, please. Here you see the ventral surface of medulla oblongata. And these most important structures you must write. The most important structures in the ventral surface. Right, please. Structure number 1, we call it sulcus bulbopontineus. Sulcus bulbopontineus. Look everybody here, please. It is the deep, very good developed groove which is located between medulla oblongata and between the pons. Sulcus bulbopontineus.
Transverse?
It is transverse directed. Yeah, it is divided. Pons from medulla oblongata. Sulcus bulbopontineus. Why bulbo? Because medulla oblongata we also call bulbus of the brain. Let's say sulcus bulbopontineus. Structure number 1. Second structure, right please. Very good developed structure which we call the pyramids. Pyramids. The pyramids. My friends, pyramids, it is the protrusion of medulla oblongata to the anteriorly. And inside of these pyramids we have descending corticospinal veins, which we call pyramidal veins. That's a little after in cross section you will see. That's in anterior surface we have protrusion of medulla oblongata, which we call pyramids. And inside of the pyramids we have descending pathways, which we call pyramidal pathways or pyramidal tract. I want to remind you that it starts from the 5th layer of the cortex, with big pyramidal cells or best cells, you remember. Let's continue, my friends. Next structure we call anterior median fissura. Fissura mediana anterior. You remember it is continuation of the same fissura of medulla oblongata, of spinal cord. Anterior median fissura. Sulcus mediana anterior. Right, please. It is divided right and left pyramids from each other. Now look everybody here, please. Look everybody here. It's very important. On the level of foramen occipitalis major, approximately this is the level. Between right and left pyramid, there are a lot of connections. We call it decussation or crisscross points, decussation. What it means, my friends, it is crossing of the pyramids. Part of the pyramids, not all of them. Remember, please, approximately 80%. 80% from one side will go to another side. 20% without crossing will be continuously downwards and will be crossed on the level of spinal cord. Finally, remember, all pyramidal tracts will be decussated, but 80% on the level of medulla oblongata, 20% on the level of spinal cord. Let's say right, please. Next structure we call decussation. Decussation, it is connection between pathways of right and left pyramids. Decussation.
So, Doctor, this decussation is located in the middle of this.
It is located, my friends, inside of fissura mediana anterior. Fissura mediana anterior in the place of decussation. It's not deep.
No.
Because right and left pyramids in this place connected to each other. It's located just by midline.
Okay. No, this is
Let's say once again, guys, anterior surface, bulbopontinial groove, anterior median fissura, pyramids, and decussation of the pyramids. Right, please. Lateral surface of the medulla oblongata. Structure number one, the best developed structure which we have, it is protrusion in the lateral surface, which we call olives. Olives. It's great visible here. Olives.
fossa.
It's not fossa, it is protrusion. It is like the pyramids, it is protrusion in anterior surface. Olives, it is protrusion in the lateral surface. Right, please. Inside of the olives, we have special oliva spinal tracts. Oliva spinal tracts. Oliva spinal tracts. Functionally, my friends, oliva spinal tracts, it is continuation of thalamospinal tracts on the level of medulla oblongata. Let's say oliva spinal tracts, it is continuation of the tracts which goes from the thalamus to the spinal cord, and on the level of spinal cord. Right, please, in front and behind of the olive, there are two grooves. In front of and behind of the olive, there are two grooves. Look, everybody here. In front of the olives, we have great developed groove, which we call anterior lateral groove. Anterior lateral groove. You remember, it's same groove we have in spinal cord also. Behind of olives, we have not so good developed but visible groove, which we call posterior lateral groove. Let's say once again, in front of the olives we have anterior lateral grooves. In the brackets, right, please. It is divided olive from pyramids. Once again, in front of the olives we have anterior lateral groove, which is divided olives from pyramids. Right, please. Inside of this groove starts the nervus hypoglossus. You remember, we spoke about it, yeah? Nervus hypoglossus in the level of medulla oblongata will be started exactly inside of the anterior lateral groove. Now posterior lateral groove. Right, please. It is located behind of the olives. It is divided olives from fasciculus cuneatus, which is located on the back. You remember, yeah? On the back we have fasciculus gracilis medially and fasciculus cuneatus, which is located laterally. The same we have in spinal cord. Why I don't show it for you? Because we study it together. You can see it here. 1 minute attention. This is fasciculus gracilis. This is fasciculus cuneatus. That's a posterior lateral groove divided olive from fasciculus cuneatus, exactly. And open the brackets and write in the brackets, please. Inside of this groove, 3 craniocerebral nerves will be started. It is 9, 10, and 11. Hypoglossal one, vagus one, and accessorius one. 9, 10, and 11 craniocerebral nerves will come to outside exactly from posterior lateral groove. Let's say from anterior lateral groove, only hypoglossus come to outside. from posterior lateral groove will come to outside 3 nerves. 9-1, hypoglossal 1, glossopharyngeal 1, 10-1, vagus 1, and 11-1, accessories 1. By the way, my friends, we forget to say that in bulbopontineal groove, in sulcus bulbopontineus, in bulbopontineal groove, again 3 nerves will come to outside. Find the place of it, sulcus bulbopontineus, and write here, please, that from this groove, nerve number 6, nerve number 7, and nerve number 8 will come to outside. Abducens 1, facialis 1, and vestibulocochlearis 1. Let's say they will come to outside from the sulcus bulbopontineus, which is divided pons from the medulla oblongata. Let's say once again, my friends, 1 minute attention. We understand 2 surfaces from the 3, anterior surface and lateral surface. Now write please, the last surface, it is the lateral surface of medulla oblongata. I'm very sorry. Okay. Sorry, posterior surface of medulla oblongata. Posterior surface of medulla oblongata. Structure number 1. Posterior median groove. Sulcus mediana posterior. Look everybody here. It's great visible here. Posterior median groove. Like in anterior surface we have anterior median groove. In posterior surface we have posterior median groove. Right please. It is divided right and left fasciculus gracilis from each other. You remember the same groove we have in the medulla oblongata. Once again, my friends, it's not hard to imagine. Look here, please. It is posterior surface. This is the groove which we call posterior median groove. Here is located fasciculus gracilis. Here is located fasciculus number 1. It is fasciculus cuneatus. Number 2, it is fasciculus gracilis. And between right and left fasciculus gracilis, we have the groove which we call posterior median groove. Sulcus mediana posterior. Superiorly, my friends, to fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus, we have protrusions. It's great visible here. Look here, please. Protrusion and protrusion. Protrusion of fasciculus gracilis we call medial protrusion. In Latin we say eminentia medialis. Protrusion of fasciculus cuneatus we call lateral protrusion, eminentia lateralis. Let's say eminentia medialis and eminentia lateralis.
They are paired, yeah?
Sorry?
2. There are 2 protrusion.
1 for fasciculus gracilis, in mid-side we call it eminentia medialis.
Okay.
In the lateral, eminentia lateralis. It is protrusion for fasciculus cuneatus. Let's continue, my friends. Little below these protrusions, you can see very good visible longitudinal grooves. Look, which we call stria medullaris. Stria medullaris. Once again, below the protrusions, you can see very good developed longitudinal grooves, which we call stria medullaris. My friends, stria medullaris located inside of fourth ventricle, and they divided fourth ventricle into upper and lower portions. You can see that in posterior, 1 minute, look everybody here. In the posterior surface of medulla oblongata and pons, there are depression, which has the rhomboid form. It has the form of the rhombus. This rhombus covered by the tegmentum, I will show the part of the cerebellum, and together they form the fourth ventricle. They say this is the part of cavity of the fourth ventricle. And we call it fossa rhomboidea. Let's say, remember please, fossa rhomboidea located not only in the posterior surface of medulla oblongata, but it's located also in posterior surface of the pons. Is it understandable for you? Let's say, my friends, I show for you the most important structures in anterior surface, in lateral surface, and in posterior surface. Now write please, next topic. It is the nucleuses and the fibers of medulla oblongata. Nucleuses, let's say now, Mohammed, we come to your question, that cross-section. Nucleuses and fibers of medulla oblongata. Right, please. Nucleus number 1, we call nucleus gracilis. Nucleus gracilis. Open the brackets and write, please. It is located on the level of eminentia medialis. Just before I show that superiorly by fasciculus gracilis, we have protrusions which we call eminentia medialis. Exactly inside of eminentia medialis, we have fasciculus gracilis. Look on the cross section, please. It is great visible in the cross section. It is nucleus gracilis, just near the posterior median groove. Is it understand? Little laterally to it, right, please. Little laterally to nucleus gracilis. Laterally and little downwards, because eminentia medialis located upper than eminentia lateralis. Let's say little laterally and downwards to it, we have nucleus cuneatus. This is the two important nucleuses on the level of medulla oblongata. Once again, nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus. The atashes vardanjja.
Bakın. Bunu şöyle şuraya kadar bakın.
How many slides? After how many slides? 26.
My friends, don't sleep. After all these questions, you will tell me. Let's say once again, fasciculus gracilis, fasciculus cuneatus. Next structure you know. We discuss it in the, yes.
Lateral and downward.
Lateral and down, we have fasciculus nucleus cuneatus. Let's say medially upwards, we have nucleus gracilis. Laterally and downwards, we have nucleus cuneatus. Look on the cross section. It is great visible. Look here, Mohammed.
Yes.
Look, this is nucleus gracilis. It is located just near the posterior median groove. Little laterally to it. In this picture, it's not visible, but it's not only laterally, but downwards. How you can check it? Look, 1 minute attention. Let's open the previous picture. Here, you can see, this is, look, this is eminentia medialis, the place of location of nucleus gracilis. This is eminentia lateralis, the place of location of nucleus cuneatus. Right, please. Structure number 3, lemniscus medialis. Lemniscus medialis. Now look, everybody, in this cross section. You can see this violet visible pathways, yeah, which is in level of our midbrain, located surround and laterally to aqueduct. Here in medulla oblongata, they located surround the posterior median groove. Let's say this pathway, my friends, subdivided into 3 portions: lemniscus lateralis, lemniscus spinalis, and in the place of decussation, lemniscus medialis. Like I said you before, all these lemniscuses, it is ascending pathways. Let's say, remember, please, right. Next structure, it is lemniscus medialis. Lemniscus medialis. It is located in mid part of medulla oblongata, just behind of the pyramids. Once again, it is located in mid part of medulla oblongata, just behind, not in front, behind of the pyramids. And they provided the sensory impulsation, it is sensory pathways, to the thalamus. Let's say sensory impulsation, it is, we say, proprioception, it is the tactile, it is the thermoregulation, it is the pain. It goes to the thalamus, and from thalamus it goes to the cortex. Lemniscus medialis, remember please. Let's continue. Next structure number 3, the most important pathway here, it is the pyramidal tracts. My friends, look everybody here. It's located just behind of the pyramids. It's great visible here. The pyramidal tract, tractus pyramidalis. Right, please. It is divided into 2 pathways. 2. First one we call cortical. My friends, hurry up, my daughter. I saw Stas try to see faster, and you anytime go and come.
Divided into 2.
It is divided into 2 pathways. Number 1, corticospinal. Number 2, corticonuclear. Once again, corticospinal and corticonuclear. Corticospinal from cortex goes exactly without interruption to the spinal cord. Corticonuclear from cortex come to the nucleuses of cranial nerves, not basal nucleus, cranial nerves. And from nucleuses of cranial nerves, it goes to the spinal cord. Let's say, my friends, remember please, pyramidal tract, which is divided into 2 portions. Corticospinal one and corticonuclear. Write the next one, please. Nucleus olivarius inferior, or just nucleus olivarius. It has 2 names, nucleus olivarius inferior or nucleus olivarius. Why? Because nucleus olivarius superior in some cases can be absent. Little after I will say. Nucleus olivarius inferior. Look everybody here, please. Do you see this very good developed, the loop form gray matter inside of the white matter of medulla oblongata? This is nucleus olivarius inferior. This gray matter, it is visible and in real and in painted cross section. Nucleus olivarius inferior. Write please the meaning of it. My friends, nucleus olivarius inferior, it is the main nucleus which is provided the pathways to cerebellum. Once again, it is the main nucleus which is provided the pathways to the cerebellum. In the brackets, write and remember, my friends, it is regulation of equilibrium of our body, position of our body in the environment. Let's say from cerebellum, first of all, pathways come to nucleus olivarius, and from nucleus olivarius they descend to the spinal cord. Let's say, remember please, it has great connection with the cerebellum. Write and remember. And last structure, about which today we speak with our friends. It is formatio reticularis. My friends, 1 minute attention, where it is located. Look here please, medially to our nucleus olivarius, you can see the white matter. In real case, inside of this white matter, there are a lot of small nucleuses of the gray matter. It is formatio reticularis. Like I say, look here please, in all parts of the brainstem, and in midbrain, and even in the encephalon nucleuses of the reticular formation, we see the elements of the reticular formation. Again, I say you, it is double pathways. Let's say by reticular formation, impulsation can pass and to the central nervous system, and from the center. And it is the most quick regulation of some vegetative functions of our body. Let's say, remember please, it is vegetative regulation, formatio reticularis. And it is located little bit medially to inferior olivary centers, inferior olivary nucleuses.
Doctor, on the picture?
On the picture it's invisible, unfortunately. Guys, this, look everybody here, little bit. 1 minute, look here please. Do you see this? It is of course pons, it is not the medulla oblongata, but the same substantia reticularis we have here. These small black points, which is located just in mid-side. These small black points forms the formatio reticularis, reticular formation. It passes through the whole brainstem. That's like the same function, just by mid-side. It will be in the medulla oblongata, samely. Because the time is very short, sorry, the second part, exactly right, the pons. the pons. The pons. My friends, write please and remember, the pons is visible.
بابا دم داخل بلیت میسی.
Can you please postpone the exam? Just tell him.
Please don't cry. I speak with telephone. After 1 minute. Okay? Okay. Thank you very much.
Just tell him to postpone the exam.
Okay. There's.
Not show the bad behavior. When I go outside from the academy of Armenia 2 times, he's ringed me. They say, wait, give me opportunity to speak, then I will come and we will continue. Let's say, look here please, what is the pons and where it is visible? My friends, pons you can see only in ventral surface of the brain. In dorsal surface it's invisible. Let's say, right please, it is protrusion which is located in the ventral surface. And on the pons, we describe several important, first of all, in anterior surface of the pons, we describe very important structures. Structure number 1, look everybody here please. It is so-called anterior sulcus or basilar sulcus. This sulcus we studied with you in the previous semester. If you remember, arteria vertebralis, right and left, connected to each other, and they form arteria basilaris. And arteria basilaris exactly located inside of this groove. Let's say this is the place of location of basilarity artery. Right and remember. Let's continue, my friends. Below we have sulcus bulbopontineus, which is divided the pons from medulla oblongata just before we studied. And superiorly, my friends, we have the groove, we call it pontocerebral groove, which is divided pons from legs of the crucis of the cerebrum. Let's say superiorly pontocerebral groove, inferiorly bulbopontineus groove. Pontocerebral divided it from the crucis of the brain, bulbopontineus groove divided from the medulla oblongata. Remember, please. Right, please. Above the pons, we can see third craniocerebral nerve. It is oculomotorius 1. Below the pons, like I said you before, we see 3 craniocerebral nerves. It is 6-1, 7-1, and 8-1. This is it. Now, right, please. In the lateral surface of the pons, we have middle cerebellar crucis. Middle cerebellar crucis. Crucis cerebellaris medius, not medialis, medius. We have superior, medius, and inferior. Let's say once again, my friends, 1 minute attention. In the anterior surface, we have sulcus basilaris. It is place of location of the basilar artery. In the lateral surface, we have continuation of the pons, which we call middle cerebellar crucis. It is the pathways which is connected pons exactly with the cerebellum. This is the superficial structures. Now write please the nucleuses and pathways inside of the pons. Nucleuses and pathways inside of the pons. Now write please, all the pons by special pathway which we call trapezoid body, we divide it into 2 portions, anterior and posterior. First we write, then I will show. Once again, all the pons by special pathways which we call pyramidal body, we divide it into 2 portions, anterior and posterior. Now look on the picture, please. Between lemniscus medialis, which is great visible, you can see the decussation, which we call pyramidal body. That's why all the pathways inside of the pons, my friends, if you will try to speak with me, you see how I try to finish today before your control work. They say, don't speak with me, please. All the pathways inside of the pons, look here please, we divide it into two portions, anterior and posterior. Now write please, in anterior part of the pons, we describe the pyramidal tracts, which we see inferiorly in medulla oblongata. Like I said you before, it is included two ways, corticospinal and corticonuclear, which goes to the nucleus. This is the main structures which is located in anterior part. In posterior part, structure number one, which we have here, it is pontineal nucleuses. Nucleusis pontineus. Look on the picture, please. It's great visible here. 3, 4, sometimes 5 small nucleuses, which is located in right and in left side. Together we call pontineal nucleuses. What the function of the pontineal nucleuses? Right, and remember, they forms connection with the cerebellum. That's a pons, my friends. It is main connection between hemispheres and cerebellum. And pontineal nucleuses exactly forms the connection with the cerebellum. It is special pathways which is by middle cerebellar legs goes to the cerebellum. They start from these nucleuses. Let's continue, my friends. Next important structure which we have, it is pontocerebellar pathways or tracts. Pontocerebellar. Like I say you before, they start from pontineal nucleuses, and by middle cerebellar legs, they go to the pons. They go to the cerebellum. By the way, here we have two ways. They located horizontally, and we have two ways pathway, and from pons to cerebellum, and from cerebellum to the pons. Let's say, remember please, it is mainly regulation of our equilibrium, position of our body in the environment. Let's say, look here please, these small structures which is visible, it is pontineal nucleuses, and this horizontal pathway which you can see inside of it, finally they goes to the middle cerebellar crucis. It is the pontocerebellar pathways, the pathways which is connecting cerebellum with the pons. Right, please. Next important structure, it is superior olivatory nucleus. You remember in medulla oblongata we describe inferior olivatory nucleus. Here we describe superior. I say, yeah, in some cases, histologically we don't see, but again, function of it, it is connection with the pons, with the cerebellum.
We don't see or you don't have?
If we don't see, we don't have. If we don't see histologically, we don't have. That's a function of it can be accumulated in pontocerebellar pathways. Let's say some persons has only pontocerebellar pathways, yeah, which I say started from nucleus pontineus, yeah, which is located inside of the pons. But sometimes, except nucleus pontineus inside of the pons, we have one more gray matter, which we call nucleus olivarius superior. Let's say function of it, my friends, it is regulation of connections with the cerebellum. It can be regulated or only by pontineal nucleuses or pontineal nucleuses with superior olivarius nucleus together. Let's say both situations is possible. Posteriorly, my friends, posterior to that, we have continuation of fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus. If you remember, finally they reach the level of the thalamus, and in the thalamus they form the special pathway to the cortex, which is located in the medial surface of thalamus, medial thalamus. Let's say all these centers, all these sensory innervations, first they come to the thalamus, and then from medial surface of thalamus they can pass to the cortex. This is mainly what we have inside of the pons. Once again, my friends, by trapezoid body, which is decussation of lemniscus medialis. You remember we say lemniscus medialis provided sensory pathways to our thalamus. By decussation of lemniscus medialis, which we call transverse body, all pons we divide it into anterior and posterior portions. Anterior to trapezoid body, we have the pyramidal tracts, which I say contain two main pathways. It is corticospinal and corticonuclear. Posteriorly, we have mainly, if by one sentence to say, mainly the apparat which is connected pons with cerebellum. It contains the nucleuses, which we call pontineal nucleuses and superior olivary nucleus, and it has special pontocerebellar pathways, which is by middle cerebellar legs, connecting pons with the cerebellum. Is it understandable?
So it has some regulation work with the cerebellum. What was that?
It is the equilibrium regulation, regulation of the body in positions of the body. Right, please. Next portion of our rhombencephalon, which we will study, it is very quickly I give you because I don't have any chance. Now, after 20 half of hour, I will finish it. Until in this, I will explain for you all fossa rhomboidea. Let's say right, please. Cerebellum. Continue. Cerebellum located below and behind of hemispheres of the brain. Below and behind of hemispheres of the brain, and it is divided into 3 big portions. Let's say cerebellum is divided into 3 big portions. Right, please. Portion number 1 and number 2 we call hemispheres of cerebellum, right and left. And portion number 3, which is located between hemispheres of cerebellum, we call the vermis of cerebellum. Once again, hemispheres of cerebellum and connector part inside of our...
This is from the...
1 minute, I will say. Inside of our big hemispheres, we have corpus callosum, which is connected right and left hemisphere to each other. It is transverse fibers. Inside of our cerebellum, it is the vermis, which is connected right and left hemispheres. Let's say this is right and left hemispheres, and this is the vermis, the connector part, which is located between these 2 hemispheres. Let's say, remember please, just by portions, all cerebellum we divide it into 3 parts. Right and left hemispheres, and the vermis, which is located like connector between them. Now write the next part, the lobes of cerebellum. The lobes of leg and big hemispheres, the cerebellum also, by the grooves, divided into several lobes. Right, please. Mainly we describe 3 lobes for cerebellum. First one we call flocculonodular lobe. It is the oldest part of cerebellum. We call it archaeocerebellum. Once again, first part, flocculonodular part. We call it archaeocerebellum, part number 1. Now look everybody here, please. It is great visible. I show it by 3 colors. The green one, blue one, and red. Archaeocerebellum, it is the most inferior part. Look here, please. It is flocculonodular part. It has 2 flocculuses. Look everybody here. Right and left flocculuses. And middle of them, we have the nodulus of the vermis, which is connecting them to each other. Let's say flocculonodular part, it is the most inferior part of the cerebellum, which has 2 floccular, right and left, and 1 nodular, which is connecting them to each other. We call it archaeocerebellum. Once again, it is the oldest part of the cerebellum. Second part, little up to it. Look here, please. This one. We call the anterior lobe of the cerebellum, upper. Look here, please. Cerebellum, my friends, also have the curved form. Let's say what is located superiorly, in the same case, will be interior part. What is located inferiorly, in the same case, will be posterior part. Let's say it is curved one. Like our brain stem. Yeah, remember, yeah, I say for thalamus, same, yeah? Inferior and ventral, superior and dorsal, it is same. Samely for the cerebellum. Let's say once again, we come from downwards. The most inferior part, it is flocculonodular. It is archaeal one. Second one, anterior one. It is second oldest part. We call it paleocerebellum. Paleocerebellum. Let's say archaeocerebellum, anterior part, paleocerebellum. And between them, my friends, between them, we have the anterior, we have the posterior part. We have the posterior part. Posterior part we call the new cerebellum. It is the biggest part, the posterior part, the new cerebellum, which make mainly the equilibrium regulation of our body. Let's say, look here, please. For down to ups, flocculonodular part, anterior part, and between flocculonodular and anterior part, we have posterior part. Let's say 3 main lobes. Yes.
On the anterior lobe, what's this observing color?
And also
It is vermis.
Vermis?
It is vermis. The anterior part of the vermis, it is included in flocculonodular part. Vermis mainly, my friends, it is included in flocculonodular part. But because anterior part of vermis located in front of anterior lobe, yeah, we show it by green color. That's it's also included in flocculonodular, in archaeocerebellum. It is the oldest part of the cerebellum. Let's say, my friends, once again, look here, please. We understand that cerebellum has 2 hemispheres, and it has the vermis, which is located between them. And we understand that all of it, not only hemispheres, we divide it into 3 lobes: flocculonodular, anterior, and posterior. Now, quickly, guys, write, please. Hurry up.
It's part of the anterior lobe.
Which one?
The small pinpoint inside of the
In real case, yeah, but you don't remember. You say like I say you. 3 parts: inferiorly flocculonodular, anteriorly anterior, and between them posterior. Functionally, there are special pathway I will show a little later. But you remember, like I say you. Now look here, please. This lobe divided from each other by 2 deep grooves. First one, it is primary fissura, right, please, which is divided anterior and posterior lobes to each other. And second one, it is flocculonodular fissura, which is divided posterior lobe from flocculonodular lobe. Let's say once again, 3 lobes subdivided from each other by 2 grooves. Primary groove divided anterior and posterior lobe, flocculonodular groove divided posterior from flocculonodular. Now we come to most important part, like please, internal structure of the cerebellum. And we will come to the question which I give you several lessons before. If you remember, I say you that gray and white matter of hemispheres and gray and white matter of cerebellum has difference to each other. In case of the hemispheres, superficially we have cortex, which is the gray matter. Inside of the cortex, we have white matter with basal nucleus. In case of the cerebellum, situation is another. Look everybody here. The gray matter forms the arbor vitae, like the branches of the tree, which is spread inside of all portions of hemispheres of the cerebellum. Let's say, my friends, position of gray and white matter in big hemispheres and in cerebellum is absolutely different. For big hemispheres, superficially we have the cloac. It is the gray matter which is covered the surface of the hemispheres. Inside we have white matter. In case of the cerebellum, they form like the branches of the tree, which is reach the inner surface of the cerebellum. And between these branches we have the white matter, which is also located between them. Let's say right, please. The gray matter of cerebellum forms the arbor vitae, like the branches of the tree inside of the cerebellum. Now the nucleuses of the cerebellum. The most important nucleus of the cerebellum we call nucleus dentatus. It is very resembled to olivary nucleus, which we describe inside of the pons. If you remember, olivary nucleus also has the form of the loop. And dentinatus nucleus, look here please, it's located just in the mid part of the cerebellum between the vermis and hemispheres. It is connected, the vermis with hemispheres. And write and remember please, it forms the angle which is open to the side of the vermis. Let's say it forms the angle which is open in the side of the vermis. What the function of it, my friends? This is the main center of regulation of positions of our body. the main center of regulation of position of our body. If nucleus dentinatus is damaged, the person loses the equilibrium qualities. For example, he can't go straightly by the line. For example, if you will say, please fix your body in some position, he can't do it because equilibrium of the body will be mixed. If you will say, connect your finger with your nose, he can't do it because proprioception and equilibrium of this person will be loose. He will attach the finger in the different places.
Like a child?
No,
No, like someone drinks
Charles can
drink and alcohol.
Of course, why? Because, my friends, 1 minute attention. Very good example. Why then you drink a lot of alcohol? The connection between pons and between cerebellum will be not closed, but will be slower. Why? Because nerve impulsation will spread it slower than in normal case. We say, for example, that we drink 100 milligram of vodka, we'll lose approximately 50% of our equilibrium. 50%. That's why sometimes some persons in our country like to drink and then to drive the cars. You must know that 50% of your equilibrium after 100 milligram of the vodka will be lost. That's why, guys, remember, I know in your culture it's not so widespread to drink this kind of things, but in any case, remember about it. Let's continue, my friends. Let's continue. Next one is not so good visible here. 1 minute attention, please. Little bit medially to nucleus dentinatus. Now I put, please, look everybody, I put my mouse exactly in its place. We have the globus nucleus. Let's say little bit medially to nucleus dentinatus. Again, in the border between hemisphere and the vermis, we have the globus nucleus. What the function of the globus nucleus? Write and remember, please. Globus nucleus forms connection between right and left hemispheres of cerebellum to each other. Let's say it is the special pathways which is passed through the vermis and which is connected right and left hemispheres. Why it is necessary, my friends? 1 minute, look everybody here. It's not easy, but we can make movements by two hands correspondingly to each other. For example, put your fingers like this. And now to try to make by your fingers the rings in opposite direction. In the same direction it is easy. But in the opposite direction it's not so easy. That's why it gives... That's why it means there is connection between hemispheres of cerebellum. No, dear, you made the same direction. It's not the opposite. It's same, dear. It's same. You make same direction. But now try to make, for example, one ring in one direction, another ring in opposite. Let's say, guys, it's not easy. Once again, I say. Maybe you will finish. Now look everybody here. Let's say this corresponding move. Let's say what gives this nucleus, globus nucleus. It gives possibility to make opposite movements by our extremities. Let's say, again I say, it's not so easy, but we can make the opposite, one movement by one hand, opposite. Usually for us, more easy to make the same. Now, look, I make the same. If I will try to make opposite movement, it will be not so easy for me. Let's say nucleus globulus, once again, guys, it make connection between right and left hemisphere, and it help us to make opposite movement by our hand. Right, please. Next one, it is ambiliformis, nucleus look here, please. It is great nucleus, big, very big nucleus, nucleus ambiliformis. This is nucleus ambiliformis. It is located between nucleus globus and nucleus dentinatus. Nucleus ambiliformis located between nucleus globus and nucleus dentinatus. And what the function of it? Look, any nucleus here has its own function. Function of nucleus ambiliformis, my friends, it is understanding of position of our body by proprioception. Let's say we close our eyes, we give some position for our body, we don't make the movement.
Yeah, just the position.
Just in fixed situation, we make the position, and by closed eyes, we understand which position has different parts of our body. For example, position of my lower extremity, position of my upper extremity, position of my head. All of these positions will be understood with our brain by nucleus ambiliformis. Once again, my friends, look here. The most medial, it is the globus. The most lateral, it is the dentinatus. Between globus and dentinatus, we have the ambiliformis one. Guys, it shows position. You can easily, how we can understand, is it damaged or not? For example, if the person has the insultus in the level of nucleus ambiliformis, he can't understand position of his body by closed eyes. For example, I take the gun ahead, I say close your eyes, and I give some position. I say in which position located your hand? He can't say. He will open the eyes to see in his hand to understand which way. He can't say. For example, it's flexed, or it is extends, because nucleus ambiliformis doesn't normally work. It doesn't show position of the body's parts. Samely for lower extremity, samely for upper, samely for all the parts of our body. Let's say we feel our body, but we can say we feel position of our body by ambiliformis. It gives the visual picture of our body by closed eyes. I can close eyes, I can make the movement, I can see the position of my body by closed eyes. Do you understand what I tell you? And finally, the last one, my friends, it is nucleus fastigi. It's located not inside of the hemispheres, it's located inside of the vermis. It is the most medial nucleus, which is inside of the vermis. What the function? Again, like in the case of the globus, it is connection between right and left. Remember, please, vermis forms mainly the connection between right and left. Conclusion is simple. From 4 nucleuses, which I described you, 3 is located in hemisphere, 1 is located in the vermis. Dentinatus, ambiliformis, and globus located in the hemisphere, fastigi located inside of the vermis. This is, guys, mainly the main pathways which it forms. Now write, please, the cerebellar peduncles. Cerebellar peduncles. Before start to write it very quickly, write, please. Cerebellum has 3 peduncles, superior, middle, and inferior. Once again, cerebellum has 3 peduncles, superior, middle, and inferior. Look, please, so beautiful it's visible. This is superior peduncle. It goes to upwards, it goes to the hemispheres. Why, my friends? Because to the cortex, all these impulses of equilibrium will come to the cortex to understand it. Middle one, it is cutted here. Look, this cutting surface. It is connected pons with cerebellum. And finally, the lower one, it is also cutted here. It is connected the cerebellum with medulla oblongata. Let's say once again, superior goes to the hemispheres, middle one comes to the pons, and the inferior one goes to the medulla oblongata.
The inferior one on the picture.
It is cutted here, it's invisible.
No, stay upstairs. Up more.
This one?
Yeah.
But it's again, it is cutted, it will come here, it's invisible. Only great visible is superior one. Middle and inferior one is cut. Let's say right, please. First peduncle, it is inferior cerebellar peduncle. How you can write at once, my friends, which tract is located here? Mainly write, please, in inferior peduncle we have ascending tracts, which is come to the cerebellum. Ascending. which is come to the cerebellum. And the most developed three trunks we have here. But the most developed one, it is spinocerebellar posterior trunks, which is from spinal cord come to the cerebellum. Another two also, it is Oliver, the arcuate one. Oliver one come, you remember, from medulla oblongata, from inferior olive, and spinocerebellar come from the spinal cord. Let's say, remember, please, for yourself, inferior peduncles mainly contain ascending pathways, sensory pathways, which is come from spinal cord to the cerebellum. Second one, right, please, the middle cerebellar peduncles.
Connection between them?
It has only one function, our shed is right. It is connection between pons and cerebellum. It is connection between pons and cerebellum. And finally, my friends, the superior peduncles make a lot of fibers which is connected cortex and thalamus with cerebellum. Cortex of hemispheres and thalamus with cerebellum. My time is short here, all is written there. Then let's say it will be fibers which goes from cerebellum to upper structures. Let's say inferiorly we have the fibers which is 1 minute. How for yourself you can remember? 3 peduncles, superior, middle, inferior. From inferior peduncles, mainly from spinal cord, impulsation come to the cerebellum. From superior peduncle, from cerebellum, it goes to upper compartment. Middle peduncle has regulator function. From upper parts of brain, impulsation will come to the cerebellum. You understand it? Let's say inferior peduncles, impulsation goes from spinal cord. Superior peduncles, from cerebellum, impulsation goes to hemispheres and thalamus. Middle peduncles, from thalamus, hemispheres, impulsation come to the cerebellum. Let's say, remember, please, it's very easy. Upper and lower. It is lower come, upper goes. Middle, from another parts of the brain, impulsation come to the cerebellum. Idea is understandable. Now we come to the most important part of our today's homework. Right, please. Fossa rhomboidea. Fossa rhomboidea. What about, I will say, 1 minute, my friends. About borders of fossa rhomboidea. It's nothing hard. You will find it has the rhomboid form. Let's say it has 4 angles. Superior, inferior, right, and left. Each angle for it, all of structures is visible in the picture. All of structures you can see. The floor of it, my friends, contains several structures. Some of them you know. It is eminentia medialis, eminentia lateralis, stria medullaris. Inferiorly, we have 2 depressions. Look here, please. Little upwards, we have the depression of hypoglossal. Little downwards, we have depression of vagal nerve, nervus vagus. In these places will be the corresponding nucleuses of the cranial nerves. And quickly, I will show the pictures, guys. Look here, please. Like I say you before, except 2 nerves, which goes to the hemispheres exactly. Except 2 nerves, which is located inside of the brain. All another nerves will be originated inside of fossa rhomboidea. Let's say all the nucleuses inside of fossa rhomboidea, you will divide it into 3 groups. It will be sensor nucleuses, it will be motor, and it will be vegetative. Let's say here we will see the formation, and you remember, yeah, we study which nerve, which function has. We have the absolutely sensory, we have absolutely motory, and we have mixed with the vegetative function. Let's say, my friends, each nerve will take its fibers, or from motor, or from sensor, or from together with vegetative. Let's say, what is just technically hard for you? To remember each nucleus in its place. Let's say, look here, please, how many pictures I put for you. It's sensory nucleuses, motor nucleuses, and finally the automatic or vegetative nucleuses, which we have here. Guys, your work is not easy. I understand you. But each nucleus, I will ask you in the homework. in your control work, which will be in the next lesson. And motor, and sensor, and vegetable. Now 1 minute. Very quickly, guys. The fourth ventricle. Like I say you before, fourth ventricle has two compartments. Look here, please. If you will look from anteriorly to posteriorly, anterior wall of it will be fossa rhomboidea. Posterior wall of it, 1 minute attention, will be formed by two structures. Look everybody here, please. It is velum superior and velum inferior. Velum medullaris superior and velum medullaris inferior. Between velum medullaris superior and inferior, we have plexus choroideus. Let's say how you can understand the formation of fourth ventricle. Once again, I say, from anteriorly to posterior. It is fossa rhomboidea, which forms the anterior wall. And posteriorly, we have two velums. Velum superior, velum inferior. Between them, we have plexus choroideus. On the posterior wall of fourth ventricle, there are apertures which is connected fourth ventricle with subarachnoidal space. Mainly connection will be with cisterna major, the major cisterna of subarachnoidal space, which is located below the cerebellum. Which aperture we have here? Just in the mid side, we have the Mojandi aperture, which is single. From double side, from Mojandi aperture, we have the Lushka aperture, which is double.
Where is Mojandi aperture?
Exactly, it's shown here in the picture. Lushka aperture is invisible because it's not in sagittal section. It is located laterally. Functional meaning of it, liquid from fourth ventricle by these two apertures come to subarachnoid space. In subarachnoid space, liquid doesn't product it. Liquid only absorbs it and accumulates it. This is, guys, mainly all the subject which is given for you to the next lesson. What you will study self-independently, only the nucleus, which is given. All another topics which I will ask you, I explain for you completely. In the Monday, during our meeting, if you will have questions before your control work, I will be ready to answer in all your questions in Monday. Now 1 minute before finish our lesson. Again I ask you guys, in which form you want your control? For me, look, some persons make in form of the test. After, don't say, yeah, that our teacher decided to do in its case. I ask you, if you want the test, I will give you test. If you want writing, I will give you writing. If you want oral, I will give you oral. But more easy we don't have. All is hard. But each one has its regularities. Let's say for me doesn't matter, decide it for yourself. But just the throat pain I have to say. But guys, say me it today and tomorrow.
Write it.
Test, it means for each person, I will give approximately 25, 30 tests. Yeah, of course. Okay. Because test is very short. Test is not exactly. For each test, guys, we give 1 minute. It is the general rule, it's not my creation, guys. That's why if for writing form I give you half of hours, it means in case of test, it will be 25, 30 tests. For each test, my friends, it's general rule. It's given 1 minute.
Each question or for what?
Test it is question. Of course. But with the variance of the answer.
But
why the test is easy? Because the variance of answer is easy.
If it will be multiple choice, yeah, you are true. In the American university, it's 13 seconds, not 1 minute. Less than
1 minute for each test. Now in our Heracli University, for example, here, we give 100, 1 minute. We give 100 minutes for 100 tests.
Multiple.
Different time. We have 3 different types. 100 minutes for 100 tests, dear.
Okay, 100 minutes for 100 tests, multiple choice.
Different type, I say. I say my practice should be
Right.
100 minutes for 100 choice. Because for multiple it's need little bit more less time. For example, we have even picture tests. We have a picture test also. It's given 1 minute, it's given the picture, it's shown the structure of the picture, and given the variant, which structure is it?
Right.